My name's Liam and I'm 25, living just outside the city. I'm the kind of guy who never misplaces his phone, so the night I lost it after hanging out with my friends was unusual. We'd gone out for drinks, and it was late when I realized my phone was missing. After searching everywhere with no luck, I decided to use the Find My iPhone app as a last resort. When I opened the app, I expected it to show my phone somewhere nearby, maybe in my friend's car or at the bar, but instead it showed up on a map, far across town in an area I'd never been to, a rundown, sketchy neighborhood. I got this weird feeling right away, like something was off, but I figured I just dropped it, and some stranger had picked it up. I was tired but determined to get it back, so I jumped in my car and drove over. It was about midnight by the time I reached the area. The streets were almost deserted, and most of the buildings looked abandoned. Windows were boarded up, and graffiti covered every wall. My phone's location showed a small side street, lined with crumbling houses, the kind that looked like they'd been empty for years. I double-checked the map, and it pointed me directly to one house that looked even worse than the rest. Its front yard was overgrown, and the windows were dirty and cracked. But according to the app, my phone was somewhere inside. I parked a bit further down the street and approached the house slowly, feeling uneasy. As I got closer, I could see a faint glow coming from one of the front windows, like the light from a phone screen. It had to be mine. I told myself that maybe someone had picked it up and come here for some reason, though it didn't make much sense, but I wanted my phone back, so I forced myself to move forward. As I reached the front of the house, I noticed something strange. There were fresh footprints leading up to the door, as if someone had walked in recently. The door itself was slightly ajar, swaying a little in the wind. I thought about just walking away, but then I saw it. My phone glowing faintly through the dirty window, lying on the floor inside. I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of fear and determination. I was about to push the door open when I noticed something else. Scratches around the door frame, like someone had pried it open not too long ago. I hesitated, but my phone was right there, just a few feet away. It didn't feel right, but I took a few steps into the house, calling out, "Hello, anyone here?" The word echoed through the empty rooms, but there was no response. I walked carefully toward the glow, and as I got closer, I could see my phone lying on the dusty floor in the middle of the front room. I reached down to grab it, but just as my hand was about to touch it, the screen flickered to life. My heart nearly stopped when I saw what was on the screen. It was a picture of me standing right there in the doorway. It was like someone had taken it from inside the house, looking out. I froze, my hand hovering over the phone. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of it. How could there be a photo of me? I looked around the room, feeling like someone was watching, but it was dead silent. I picked up my phone, and that's when I noticed the faint sound of footsteps from somewhere deeper in the house. It was soft, like someone was trying to be quiet, but it was definitely there. Every instinct told me to get out. I backed toward the door, clutching my phone, when suddenly a message notification popped up on the screen. The message was from an unknown number, and it read, "See you next time." I didn't wait around to see if anything else would happen. I bolted out the door, sprinted to my car, and drove as fast as I could, glancing in the rearview mirror the whole way home. I barely slept that night, the message replaying in my mind. I kept thinking about how someone had been in that house, watching me, taking photos. I never did figure out how my phone ended up there, or who was behind it. But the next day, I got another text from the same unknown number. "Missed you last night." That was enough for me. I changed my number, deleted Find My iPhone, and haven't gone back to that part of town since. But every once in a while, I get this feeling like I'm being watched, especially when I'm alone at night. And sometimes I'll catch a glimpse of my reflection on my phone screen and wonder if someone, somewhere, is still watching me from the other side. My name is Maria. I'm 22, and I live in a small town just outside of the city. I've been on a big fitness kick lately, so I go to the local gym a few times a week. Last month, after a late workout, I accidentally left my phone at the gym. I didn't realize it until I got home, and by then the gym was closed for the night. I couldn't sleep knowing my phone was out there somewhere, so I used Find My iPhone to locate it. The signal was still active, but it didn't make sense. My phone wasn't at the gym, it was somewhere nearby, in the direction of the local high school. I thought maybe someone had found it and brought it there, or that it had been picked up by mistake. It seemed strange, but I was desperate to get my phone back, so I decided to check it out first thing in the morning. The next day, I walked over to the high school as soon as it opened. I tracked the location carefully, watching the little dot on my screen get closer and closer. It finally stopped right near a row of lockers in one of the hallways. I felt out of place being in a high school, especially with students rushing past, but I couldn't shake the need to retrieve my phone. I found a janitor and told him I thought my phone might be inside one of the lockers. He gave me a strange look, but eventually agreed to help. We stopped in front of the locker the app was pointing to, and he unlocked it for me. As soon as he swung the door open, I felt my stomach drop. Inside was my phone, lying face up on a shelf, as if someone had carefully placed it there. But that wasn't all. Next to my phone was a piece of paper with a handwritten note on it that said, "I know you." The janitor took a step back, muttering, "What the?" I just stared at it, completely frozen. But then I noticed something even more disturbing. Folded neatly next to the phone was an outfit: jeans, a t-shirt, and a sweatshirt. Clothes that looked exactly like what I'd worn to the gym the week before. Down to the color, the style, everything. It was like someone had studied me and picked out every detail. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands, but I didn't touch anything else. My heart was racing, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. The janitor just kept staring at the note, and he finally said he'd get the principal and call the police. A few minutes later, the school security staff, a couple of officers, and even a detective showed up. They searched the locker and took the note and the clothes. They asked me a lot of questions, but there wasn't much I could tell them. I had no idea who could have done this or why. I just kept thinking about how someone had been watching me, knowing my clothes, my routine, even where I'd be that night at the gym. The police did a thorough search of the school, but they didn't find anything else. The detective told me they'd look into it, but weeks went by with no news. I tried to forget about it, telling myself it was probably just some twisted prank, but I could feel this constant paranoia, like someone was following me. Every time I went to the gym or even walked down the street, I'd catch myself looking over my shoulder, wondering if I was being watched. Then, a few weeks later, I got a text message from my own number. My heart pounded as I opened it, half hoping it was some weird technical glitch. But the message was short and chilling. "You were right to run." I dropped the phone, feeling cold all over. I hadn't told anyone that I'd run out of that school hallway as soon as I could. The fact that whoever sent this message somehow knew exactly what I'd done that day made me feel sick. I reported it to the police again, but there wasn't much they could do with a simple text message. Since then, I've changed my phone, my number, and even my routine. I don't go to the gym as often, and when I do, I make sure I'm not alone. But I still feel that unsettling presence sometimes, like someone's watching from just out of sight. And every time I catch a glimpse of someone wearing clothes that look a little too much like mine, my heart skips a beat, wondering if it's them, wondering if they're still out there, waiting for the next time I slip up, leave my phone, or let my guard down. It's a feeling I can't shake, this sense that someone's still tracking my every move. And the words from that message echo in my mind, reminding me that I may not be able to escape as easily next time. My name is David, and I'm 28 years old, working in a tech company downtown. I'm usually pretty organized, but last week I somehow managed to lose my phone at work. I'd had it on me all morning, but by the afternoon, it was gone. I assumed it must have slipped out of my pocket or was left on my desk somewhere, so I wasn't too worried at first. After checking my desk and the break room with no luck, I decided to use the Find My iPhone app to track it down. The app showed my phone was still in the building, but not on my floor. Instead, it was one floor up on the fifth level, in a section of the office I rarely ever go to. I found that odd since I didn't remember even passing by that area, but thinking someone must have picked it up by mistake, I headed up to retrieve it. When I reached the fifth floor, I noticed it was unusually dark, with most of the lights off. The place looked deserted, and all I could hear was the faint hum of the air conditioner. I followed the dot on my screen down a hallway to an empty office. Inside, the only light was coming from my phone, which was lying face up on a desk against the wall. As I got closer, I could see the phone screen was already on, and to my surprise, it was unlocked. That didn't make any sense. My phone always required a passcode. I picked it up and found it open to a strange series of screenshots, each capturing my private emails and contact lists. The feeling of invasion hit me instantly, like someone had been rifling through my life without me knowing. My heart started pounding, and I suddenly felt exposed, standing there in the dark, scrolling through these screenshots. It was one thing to lose a phone, but to see my personal messages and information displayed like that was unsettling. Who had done this and why? Just as I was about to turn and leave, I felt that prickling sense that someone was watching me. I froze and slowly looked up, scanning the room through the dim light. That's when I saw movement from the next room over. In the reflection of a glass door, I caught the faint outline of someone standing there, barely visible in the shadows. I didn't wait to find out who it was. I turned and rushed out of the office, not even daring to look back. My heart was racing and I kept my head down, making a beeline for the stairwell. By the time I made it back to my floor, my hands were shaking so badly I could hardly hold my phone. I went straight to security and reported what happened, describing everything in detail. The security officer assured me they'd check the building's cameras and look into the matter, but as I left, I couldn't shake the feeling of someone's eyes on me. I checked over my shoulder constantly as I headed home that night, and I barely slept, wondering who had been in that dark office and what they'd wanted with my information. The next day, I got a call from the security team. They told me they'd reviewed the footage and confirmed someone had been accessing the fifth floor that night. But before they could approach him, the employee had abruptly quit the very next morning, handing in his badge and vanishing without a word. I asked if they could tell me his name, but all they'd say was that he'd only been working there for a few days. After that, I changed all my passwords, updated my security settings, and tried to move on. But the experience left me uneasy. Every now and then, I get a strange text from an unknown number, or I'll notice a missed call from an unfamiliar area code. It's nothing I can prove, but it feels like someone is still out there, keeping tabs on me, waiting for me to slip up again. And every time I reach for my phone, I half expect to see it unlocked, staring back at me with pieces of my life, open for someone else's eyes.